going for the two-pointer. And they're cheering his name. He shoots.
Oh! He sinks the shot and wins the game! Woo!
Hey, could you pipe down a bit? I'm trying to help my new protege. So, you learned how to milk your friend's success for money. You're on the right track. But allow me to offer you some options that'll really rake in the green. Merchandise is good, but nowhere near as good as magazine covers and TV commercials. I'm Finn the Pony, and it's time for Finn Bits. So, Common Ground, an episode where our old buddy Quibblepants tries to bond with his new girlfriend's daughter, but she's only a fan of sporty ponies, which means Rainbow Dash to the rescue. Was this story a slam dunk or a complete foul ball? Let's find out.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a double whammy of nostalgia tonight. We have the overly observant and nitpicky fanboy of Daring Do, who also happens to share her color scheme ironically enough, voiced by Peyton Oswald himself. It's Quibblepants! And of course Equestria's all-inclusive sport which got its own episode back in Season 6. Put your hooves together for Buckball!
I'm not gonna lie, I was really surprised to see these two elements appear as main staples in an episode again, especially Quibblepants. He seemed like the typical guest star character. Appear once, be part of a phenomenal episode, and then maybe have a cameo or mention here and there so that you won't be completely forgotten. But here he is, front and center, with a brand new personal dilemma to deal with.
And would you believe me if I said that Quibble's conflict in this episode is similar to one that his voice actor experienced in real life?
Well, yeah, you probably would since you've likely seen plenty of other reviews before mine, but just in case, let's talk about it. So after we learn that Pinky, Flutters, and Snails have become the current Buckball champions, complete with die-hard fans and an induction into the new Hall of Fame, we meet a familiar face waiting outside the Buckball Museum. It's Quibblepants. And what's his reason for camping outside the museum like an Apple fanboy waiting for the new iPhone? Why, to gain admittance for himself and his new special Sun Pony. Well, looks like we're crossing another ship off the list. This Sun Pony of his, named Clear Sky, has a daughter named Windsprint. Windsprint is a massive fan of Buckball, but not a massive fan of Quibble. And despite his attempts to bond with her, she just continues to be cruel and grumpy towards him at every opportunity. So Quibble calls on the sportiest pony he knows, Rainbow Dash, to turn him into the best Buckballer that little filly's eyes have ever seen. Seems kinda simplistic, and in many ways it is. But if you take a peek behind the scenes, you can see exactly where the creators of the story are coming from. So it turns out that Peyton was not the only Oswald on set during the making of this episode. His wife and daughter were also in the recording studio, providing the voices of Clear Sky and Windsprint respectively. And in Peyton's own words, they really got into their performances, especially the daughter, doing all these retakes and trying to bring the character to life.
She is going to make her little...
That's sweet.
Her little voiceover debut.
You know what? That's very sweet.
And if that wasn't enough, the plot of the episode is apparently based on a snippet of Peyton's real life. You see, Peyton got married to his first wife and had a daughter with her, but the first wife unfortunately passed away. Peyton made an attempt to remarry, but the daughter wasn't exactly willing to accept a new person into her life. And I don't blame her. She's a kid, she misses her old mom. And Peyton of course needed to explain to her that there's nothing wrong with missing her mom, but she also needs to try and open up her life to new people as well. Common Ground is very similar to this, except that the roles are reversed, with the father being the one missing from the family, and Peyton's character needing to try and bond with the daughter. Knowing all this info makes you realize that Peyton has genuine experience with this sort of topic, and when you listen to his inflections in the dialogue, he really sells that he's been down this road before. He knows how difficult a situation like this can be. He knows how it plays out and what effects it can have on both the children and the adults. He didn't write the episode per se, but the way he carries his character's lines really gives me the vibe that he knows the exact emotional tone that this story needs. I felt for this guy's character more times than I could count, and that goes the same for his wife and daughter's characters as well. It's always wonderful to see families getting together like this and using their real-life dynamics and experiences to bring a fictional family to life. It helps add that little extra ingredient that makes the whole package feel more genuine. I'm not gonna lie and say that all the line deliveries were perfect. I think some of Winsprint's lines were a little awkward, but hey, for her first voice acting performance, Pat's daughter did pretty dang well. However, in an effort to be fair, we need to ask one important question. What happens if we take all this context and just throw it all away? What happens if we view this episode on its own with no behind the scenes info at all? Is it like Twilight 7 where the context just adds to an already great episode? Or is this episode's enjoyment completely reliant on the context? In my eyes, I think knowing just adds to the fun. First off, it's really nice to see MLP tackle such a sensitive subject. There are plenty of kids out there who have been in Winsprint's shoes before, finding it hard to accept a new member of the family and thinking that they're just trying to replace the old one. But at the end of the day, no one is asking them to forget about the loved one they lost, only that they find room in their hearts for someone else. Don't just close yourself off prematurely, give them a chance. And you may find out that that person you were pushing away was only trying to be your friend and get to know you. I've never been in this exact situation before, but I know what it's like to lose family. It's a big, emotionally draining change in your life. And when you try to pile even more change on top of that, it can make things even worse. But at the end of the day, it's not fair to push others away just because you miss someone. And I'm glad Winsprint learned that at such a young age. There's also the moral about being open to one's interests, showing that even if you're completely clueless about something that your friend likes, it helps to at least make an effort to try and learn about it. Ask your friend questions, come with them to certain events.
Hey, I'm a big fan of this show or this band. Oh, really? I've never heard of it. Why don't you tell me about it?
It proves that you're at least trying your best to bond with that person and take an interest in their life, and that's something that anyone can appreciate. And by the end of the episode, we see how such a lesson plays out, with Winsprint teaching Quibble about the basics of buckball, and Quibble showing Winsprint the more statistical side of the sport through the use of an almanac. It's a really cute bonding moment and shows that these two polar opposite characters can still get along just by showing interest in each other's likes. Just goes to show that if you try hard enough, you can always find some common ground.
He said it! He said it!
As for the rest of the episode, it's mostly just your typical MLP slice of life. The pacing is fine, the story is serviceable, the conflict and resolution are what you'd expect from the description. It's just run-of-the-mill in those departments. Some of the moments stand out though, like how Snips keeps trying to profit off its friend's success through merchandise and autographs, allowing both him and Snails to have an interesting role in the story. Kinda funny how we've been getting a lot of Junior Flim and Flams during this season. It was great to see just how much buckball had grown in popularity with a whole stadium, museum, and Hall of Fame dedicated to it. All we need is a real-life version being played at BronyCon and we'll be all set. Fluttershy being able to play a sport in front of a ton of other ponies is further emphasis on how her confidence has come a long way, and I'm proud of her. Some of the bits of Quibble attempting to be sporty could be funny too. Like I really enjoyed that scene where he tried to pull an Air Bud by finding loopholes in the rulebook so he could keep playing. But in general, this isn't really an episode you'll remember for the entertainment value or the story. It's something you'll remember for the emotional scenes and the lesson, and it does both of those things really well. At first glance, Common Ground doesn't appear to break any new ground when it comes to plot. It's got a straightforward structure, straightforward pacing, and straightforward humor. But the aspects that save this episode are the gooey emotional center, the great vocal performances, the relatable dilemmas of Quibble and Winsprint, and the well-executed moral. Plus, it's nice to see the Oswald family take part in a slice of life episode that is literally a slice of their own life. And even if you remove that concept from the equation, I still think this episode can stand on its own. It may not be the MVP of the season so far, but I'll always be happy to cheer it on. Woohoo! Oswald! 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 Well, I hope you all enjoyed my quick little playthrough of this episode, and feel free to tell me what you thought of this episode in the comments below. Did Common Ground give you the emotional fuzzies that it gave me? What other one-off characters would you like to see return in MLP? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for playing along with me. I'm Finn the Pony, and I hope to see you all next time on FinBits.
flips and triple bounce bucks over 83% of her shots from the northwest section of the field when the wind is blowing from the east.